paying more taxes, right?
Guest services.
Again,
Can I help you, sir?
They always point to Europe. They tell you what they want to be. They tell you what the goal is. The goal is to be like Europe, right? This is what they tell you. But have you actually been to Europe, right? Have you lived in Europe for an extended amount of time, right? Do you understand that Europe is not affordable right now? Groceries are higher, homes are smaller, gas prices are higher, utilities are higher. You make less money, wages are lower, right? You got a better standard of living in the United States of America than you do in Europe. But see, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. But they got free stuff, right? They got free public transit, right? Free healthcare, right? They got free stuff. But the free stuff ain't free. It's not free. It's major redistribution from the middle and upper middle class, right? Because that's where most of the money's at. They redistribute wealth to those who, don't want to work as much, right? So yeah, the people at the bottom in Europe might feel better, right? Because they don't want to work that much, and they're getting a bunch of free stuff because they don't want to work. Yeah, for them it might be great, but if you actually work, okay, if you provide, if you contribute, if you produce, you're not doing better in these socialist countries. You're not. You're going to do better in the United States of America. But these people got to find out the hard way. The socialists tell you what they want, and people are shocked that that's what they're doing, right? That they're trying to make New York City like London, right? That's exactly what Zoran's doing.
That's why Campbell was among the dozens of homeowners from Southeast Queens who turned out for what they say was an emergency response to the mayor.
Mayor's on my down, you are out your goddamn mind.
To the mayor, with the greatest respect, in every campaign speech, in every debate where you engage, we opened our ears to listen. Now today, accept the words echoing from us now. Do your job as mayor and leave our taxes out.
To close a $5.4 billion budget gap, the mayor says he has two options. Convince Governor Hochul to tax the wealthy.
Hello, sir. How can I be of help today?
Raise the city property tax rate by 9.5%.
Of course.
Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
Of course. May I ask where to? Excellent. It's on its way.
The proposal should not be on the table whatsoever. Meanwhile, Hochul, for her part, is unlikely to soften her position as she faces re-election this year.
You are giving only two options. You're saying, if we don't tax the rich, then I gotta increase property taxes. We are not a part of Southeast Queens. We are not part of your negotiation tactics.
In Queens.
Yes, you are.
Stefan Graham, Channel 7. Eyewitness.
Yes, you are. You are part of their negotiation tactics. You have always been a pawn for socialists, right? Middle class, working upper middle class have always been pawns for socialists. They see you as a giant piggy bank.
Are down, the equipment is ready, and we've crippled their supplies. Mrs. Rackman has written our check and given us the green light. We're good to finally move on that submarine and stop this threat once and for all. When you're ready, get your crew together and head back to planning.
In order to, quote-unquote, tax the rich to pay for socialism for people who don't want to work and illegal immigrants. Yes, you're learning. That's how the game works. And again, even if he's able to, quote-unquote, tax the rich, it's still not going to work because the rich are going to leave. And when they leave, there's going to be less tax revenue. When there's less tax revenue, guess what? They're going to tax you anyways. That's
Yo, what you need?
What happened in Chicago?
Done. Shit, rise on the way.
History is repeating itself. We covered the same story out of Chicago. Y'all remember the story we covered out of Chicago? Black residents in the streets protesting about property tax increases. Why? Because of woke Mayor Brandon Johnson, who's also a socialist, his tax the rich agenda that drove businesses and rich folks out of the city, and that led to less tax revenue. Therefore, in order to get the money to pay for the free stuff, they had to go to the middle class blacks.
Homeowners in Lawndale are searching for answers together tonight about their property tax hikes. One man says he received a bill this week that was $977 more than what he paid last year.
There's been a divestment in this community for the most part, but it seems like now that people have found an interest in reclaiming the neighborhood, now it's like we're being taxed for prosperity.
Just today, our property tax bills came in, and folks are seeing the average increase in North Lawndale is like 100%.
Yeah, you are being taxed on your prosperity, right? That's a core tenet of socialism, communism, right? Of Marxism, right? From each according to his ability to each according to his needs, which means that, hey, if you produce more, if you work, then you gotta contribute more, right? You gotta give more, right? Well, the government has to take more, put it that way, right? The government is entitled to more. This is what they mean, okay? And if you don't want to work, then hey, you get more, right? You receive, because apparently you need it. Not necessarily based on what you earn, right? But what you need, okay? So, again, this is a lesson, a hard lesson to these people, right? That tax the rich always means tax the middle class. That's what it means. It doesn't mean anything else outside of that. And that's what people with common sense, conservatives, have been trying to tell these folks time and time and time again. These people are snakes, right? You cannot believe them when it comes to anything. Anything. You can't believe them. But hey, you know, this is what happens. Trump derangement is what leads people to vote for stuff like this. Because that's the only thing Democrats are offering at this point, Trump derangement and socialism. And unfortunately, you got some people who are just eating it up. They're eating it up. They're voting for it. And then once they get it, once they get what they voted for, now all of a sudden they got remorse. Oh, we were duped, right? No, you weren't tricked. No, you weren't. They told you exactly what they wanted to do. You just didn't believe them, right? Your hatred of Trump is what blinded you to the reality of socialism. The things that these people say always sound good, but look at the track record. All you gotta do is look at Chicago, look at Seattle, look at San Francisco, look at all the places that this stuff has been tried. Look at the result. It's always a disaster. Gotta learn the hard way. They gotta learn the hard way. So in the meantime, while New Yorkers are boo-hoo whining crying about the property taxes going up, right, due to voting for socialists, you have Republicans down in Florida, right? What are they doing? They're actively trying to decrease, to get rid of property taxes.
He's talking property taxes now if he can't get some other tax increase from the governor. What are you doing with property taxes? You're going to phase them out completely?
Well, first of all, didn't he run on affordability? How is it more affordable to raise property taxes on working class people? I just don't understand that. So what we're working through, and we got to work with the Florida legislature, is phasing out the property tax for Florida residents and their primary, what we call a homesteaded property. And the way it works in Florida is that's about 1/3 of all the property tax revenue, because, you know, these local governments are taxing investment properties, snowbirds, second, third homes, businesses, all those other things. And so the context of this is in 2019, local governments in Florida brought in $32 billion in property tax revenue. Now they're bringing in $60 billion. So if you go back to that 2019 level of spending, you give them population growth, you give them the inflation, even add a couple percent a year on top of that, you're not even close to $60 billion. So they're obviously getting a lot of this because property values have gone up. A lot of people moved to Florida, particularly during the COVID era, but people need relief. And what's happening, Joe, is you've got older people that have been in their home for a long time. They've had protection against valuation.
Play me some music, play me a song I want to hear. Tired all the time, sing folk song.
Listen, behold, the only thing greater than yourself.
Play me some music, play me a song.
That's the difference, folks. That is the difference between voting Democrat and voting Republican, especially.
Song I want to hear. Tired all the time, sing folk song.
You told me, and I speak blunt, and I'll rip your black hide if you don't do what I say.
Especially at the local and state level, they're not the same, right? They're big difference, and you're seeing it in Florida. They're trying to get rid of property taxes, right? They say, hey, some of these local governments are getting too fat. They're getting too much money, okay? And this is somebody for homeowners, for working folks, right? Meanwhile, in New York, run by Democrats, they're trying to increase your taxes. There's a huge difference. Huge difference. So, I'm just saying, people one day are going to wake up. They're going to wake, and I hope that black folks wake up one day.
That is it. Hope. When hope comes, you don't hope no more. You too caught up in the semantics of the words. Make believe, understand, faith, and hope. Them words got people too fucking fucked up to the point where they can't see the truth. Never. I'm sorry. If you live your life with them 5 fucked up words, you'll never realize that those 5 fucked up words are words that's holding you back from realizing the truth that's already ready within you, just ready for you to tap back in. Facts. Common law, common sense. It is what it is. The truth makes sense for true change. Because once you go back to using common sense, shit will change. Because right now, common sense is just not common.